Hey, listen, everybody. I'm Sam. I'm here with Pear.
Hey.
Damon.
Scoop.
Jared.
Hi.
It's a different crew. We're on
happened?
NBC. This is NBC. Oh, man, I already forgot the number.
324.
Yeah. And we are all here because some people are at TGS in Tokyo, including Jose. Mm-hmm. And so this crew here is going to be doing some special fun stuff today. We're going to talk about old games, our favorite topic.
Yay!
Maybe our second favorite topic, but old games are really fun. We're going to play a game.
We're going to play a game? Oh,
yeah.
we are going to play a game.
Okay. Damon's here to host 20 questions a game from Game Scoop, another IGN show, which everybody here should download and listen to because that is the most fun segment I think I do weekly here at IGN.
It's our,
20 questions?
it's our daddy podcast. If you're not subscribing, do sign up for it.
Game Scoop's great.
Daddy podcast?
Yeah, that's
Explain
it's the old school big daddy of our
Oh,
podcast,
the big
right?
daddy.
Huh?
Okay.
Scoop's been around for ages, man.
Yeah, 10 years. Yeah.
400
As long
episodes.
as I've been around, yeah.
Wow.
400
And
and change, yeah.
But you've been on NBC before.
I have been. It's been a long time, but yeah.
Yeah, Many Moons, and I've
I
been on Scoop
used to
Live.
be on the Nintendo team at IGN, so I used
That's
to be a
right.
regular.
Were you on Week in
Scoop.
Review with Two Eyes?
I was not on Week in Review with Two Eyes.
Wow.
I was just on Nintendo Voice Chat.
When did we have a week in
It
review?
was
I do not remember
NBC's
this.
old name, yeah.
What?
Before
Well, there
that.
was a console called the Wii, and you'll notice that it's in the stack. I actually have some Wii games that we're going to talk about.
What?
But first, we're going to talk about a new batch of NX rumors. So let me preface this with something cool. Jared runs our NX rumor mill. So every rumor that goes through IGN about the Nintendo NX goes through Jared. So you might not see him on NBC much or hear him on NBC much, but the thing is that he knows everything about everything going on with NX. Him and Andrew Goldfarb runs our news team.
Let's clarify that. I know everything that other people are saying true about NX.
You might say he's an inexpert.
Or
Or you
NX.
might call him King Ropes, which
you
is on
could.
his shirt, his hat.
Yeah.
Do you have like a windmill? Like what kind of rumor mill you got?
No, but I do have a throne, an iron throne made entirely of hemp.
Yeah.
That I
and
set
so,
up.
but how do you, I looked at your rumor mill list and it's
Yeah.
on the NX wiki, right? You can find it, just search IGN, Nintendo NX rumors, you'll find it. But like you do leave out a whole bunch of stuff, which I think is good.
Yeah.
I mean, there are
Sometimes it's just-
so many BS rumors out there, it's amazing.
So what we do is, if we took every rumor, we'd never go home. Because every time somebody says, I think it's going to be this way, that's almost a rumor, or I heard this. So what we do is we look for the ones that have at least a little bit of credence to them. They come from sources that are related to media, or people that have provided reliable reports before, or people that maybe through unconfirmed sources or through secondary sources, we think, oh, there's something to this, but we can't say. We
So
put a lot
that's-
of checks and balances up on these, and we are careful to identify these as rumors because we don't want to misreport a rumor as news, which is a very different thing.
But there's a couple of different levels of rumor, and one of those is a type of rumor in which we actually get a on the record source to confirm that rumor, but maybe we keep them hidden or private.
Anonymous.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have a couple
On
classifications,
background.
and I have made a scale by which we're going to classify all Nintendo rumors going forward. One of them, and this is debunked rumors that we have taken off of our list, but actually we just labeled them debunked because we kept them on the list so you could read them. Those are going to be called the Nintendo on headset hoax rumors. That is, if you remember, everybody should go search Nintendo on headset right now.
So
there's a hoax for the revolution.
I wasn't even really aware of that.
It's so great.
I have no
I'm
memory
sure
of
you
this.
saw it.
There was, I think
You
there
put
was
on this
somebody
big
made
headset.
a concept for
Concept
VR
video.
goggles for Nintendo.
Yes,
and it
Nintendo
looked like,
on.
we saw it, we were like, this is way too good. They're never going to do that.
No, the production value, I never saw this thing until Sam put it out to me the
it's
other
so
day,
good.
and I was just like, this is really going to fool you. I think the only thing in like this 4-minute video that shows that it's off, they do these incredible motion graphics, and then there's like an arrow that's just terribly off-center and looks like it was done in paint. There at one point. Everything else is
That's what did
perfect.
it. How about the fact that Nintendo would never roll out something that extensive and deep? And like, no, honestly, that's
was
not
before
how they
Nintendo
do
Direct.
things, right?
So-
That was before the
we're getting off on a tangent.
Anyway, that
about
one
the
is
name.
BS. That's long
So
gone.
BS stuff, those are Nintendo on headset hoaxes. Rumored stuff, we're going to call those My Uncle Works for Nintendo.
Yeah, that's right.
And then partially confirmed stuff, we're going to call it I read about that on IGN.
All right.
All right, so let's start with debunked. First of all photos
Yeah.
Every photo out there that you've seen, including some really nicely made ones of like a little oval shiny thing.
Oh, the white. And
Right, these right here.
Well,
This is- yeah.
that's the PSP/Vita looking one,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
one looked exactly like one of the concept drawings, one of
Yes.
the patents, right? So that's why it had some credibility. But there has been just recently a nicely done mock-up in like white with round controller ears attached to the screen, which
Yeah.
of course is also not true.
Yeah, so any photo, realistic things you see of this are not true. Now, contrast that to all drawings. Because some drawings might be legit because there's patent applications.
Yes.
Exactly. And these are, yeah.
partially confirmed, we call those. And we'll get to those, but just draw the distinction.
Okay.
Another thing that's been completely debunked is announcement dates. Now, this very month, we were supposed to get an X announcement based on several different rumors. One of them said at the GameStop Expo. That's in the past. One of them said September 9th. Well, it's September 15th now.
16th.
There was one
now.
that said TGS.
It actually dropped a week ago. We just missed it.
TGS could. Yes, exactly. Unless we missed it, that's been debunked too. So once we get out of that territory, everything going forward is just rumored. My uncle works for Nintendo stuff, like stuff that people heard, stuff that other outlets that we, can say have some credence. And this is the best list for me. This is really juicy stuff. There's some good press to converse with too. So cartridges. That's the first one.
Yep.
We've talked about this on this podcast before. We don't. There's been some advances in flash memory, which is weird to hear because I guess I'm surprised people care about that a lot anymore. Anyway, so cartridges. Tell us about cartridges, Jared.
Okay, so cartridges are small. There is some reason to believe that cartridges are going to be available on NX. There was one of the most important ones is a Wall Street Journal report that talks about how there's a possibility that someone familiar with the matter, that was the quote the Wall Street Journal used, supposedly told Wall Street Journal Nintendo is going back to cartridges because of, quote, renewed appeal, end quote, for chip-based storage because of advances in the production of flash memory. Effectively, it used to be that optical media was really cheap and really big. And now flash memory's caught up and is really cheap and really big. So why not go back to cartridge where they think it'll make piracy harder, where it's more compact, and where it'll work with these other rumors we're hearing about a portable system. Right. So there are other mentions of cartridge rumors that the other reason we're missing is partially confirmed. One, the Wall Street Journal's got a pretty good source on it, it sounds like. Second, we keep hearing about it from other places, and the reports we hear are all a little different than all the others, which means they're not just resourcing each other.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, look, I am 100% convinced they're going with memory cards. So like people say cartridges, but really what we're talking about is something more akin to like the flash memory in the 3DS, right? The modern equivalent of an SD card. It's a little different from the old EEPROM cartridges we had in the Super NES days. And so like it's a little bit of it's a little rah-rah kind of clickbaity rhetoric to say they're going back to cartridges. They've never left them. The 3DS uses them.
Yeah.
It's a handheld device. The PSP has shown what can happen when you have a little spinny disk drive in a handheld. It is just not efficient. No iPhone has any disk media like that. It's just not the future for handheld.
If it was going to be this small, they'd do it one of two ways. It would either be a cartridge like they've used before in the 3DS and DS, or it was going to be download only. Those were the two options.
Yeah. There hasn't been a home console that used cartridges since the Nintendo 64, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I
mean, there have been like the Ouya without any drive, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There have been attempts to do driveless, and gamers freak out.
Mm-hmm.
But the NX isn't the home console.
And we do know from GameStop there is news that came out that there's going to be physical media of some kind. Sorry,
it's halfway home console, right?
Yeah, but that's just a stamp you put on it. I mean, ostensibly, what it is it's closer to an iPad than it is to a Wii U, right? It is a device that you can dock at home. This is from everything we know, right? Internally, that we have heard from developers. It is a machine that docks and you can play games on your screen, right? On your TV screen. Well, my iPad can do that too. Heck, my iPhone can do that too. You could argue the Vita can do that too. But it is, I hear you. It's meant to be a replacement in the long run for the Wii U, in that they will not be a true kind of at-home only device.
Yep. Yeah. So let's go through some of these other unconfirmed but rumored my uncle works for Nintendo type things. We got the share button.
Yep.
What happened with the share button?
Somebody
reported that there's a share button, just like the PS4 and the Xbox One. Yeah. Doesn't seem too unlikely.
If you're
just
listening
seems
to
to be
the
what
audio
consoles do now.
version, Jared has a stack of papers that
great.
he rifles through
It's great.
to find his rumor.
I
You
might
gotta
have
watch this
brought a
episode.
few too many sheets, I'm realizing, because I studied for this. But the share button thing, that goes into, I believe that was originally part of the streaming NX rumor, right? This one, I think that's where that came from. We got a bunch of features from a survey that supposedly got leaked from probably a vendor that talked about features of hey, if the console could do this, or if Nintendo's new hardware included this, what would you prepare for it? What would you think of it? One of those kinds of situations. Okay. And people kind of took that, we think, and might have assumed that, oh, well, those are going to be features. No, those are things Nintendo was just kind of throwing out there and pitching. So,
and that other consoles might do.
Exactly, that other consoles might do. So things like 4K 60 FPS streaming and things like that, or a 900 FPS.
that was from the same
yeah,
thing.
those are from that. I think Share Button was a part of that one.
Yeah, then there have been some recent rumors about the share button as well. I mean, like from a is it believable or not perspective, absolutely. The oldest trick in the marketing book is if somebody talks about you, you stand to win, right? So you want to make it easy for people to share. And Nintendo has invested in Miiverse.
Yes.
And in building out your online persona in the forms of Mii's. They're not going to get rid of that. They're going to be around. They're going to be multi-platform, and they want to make it easy for you to share what you're doing, what you're playing, what you're loving with others. So having a button like that makes sense.
Also, I totally screwed up and gave you false information. The Share Button is not from that leak. I apologize. I'm sorry. The Share Button is from the Let's Play Video Games report that the NX controller would have a share button and split D-pad that was part of that rumor process.
that was a weird one.
I apologize. I just got my facts wrong.
Two things. What's interesting, I think, about the share button is that Nintendo has not been very friendly about people streaming its games.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're...
Yeah, you're
Well,
right. The
so
whole
like-
YouTube crackdown,
Yeah,
right?
or
So
But share could mean to a fixed platform somewhere.
Yeah.
Think about
Yeah.
how like in Mario Kart you could share your replay with others, right? Like that is it's literally a place on your controller to quickly say, "Oh, remember that," right?
Yeah.
Share that for
Yeah,
or
keep that.
we don't know if that means streaming
Or share in Nintendo's controlled ecosystem.
Yeah.
Or if they have a magical Nintendo-only place for
yeah,
streaming.
or stream and make Nintendo money. That could
Well,
be the
there's
other
that
feature.
too. Yeah, maybe they do want it. Also, I don't know what they mean by split D-pad.
That means it's not a cross.
Like
Like,
a
Nintendo,
PlayStation.
Nintendo has a cross D-pad. The PlayStation,
it's one piece of plastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the PlayStation's 4 buttons.
Yeah, okay.
Remember the old, there's like a grid, and then the buttons kind of come through that grid.
So a split D-pad means it's going to be more like a PlayStation.
Yes, that means basically
Not
Nintendo
just down the
said.
middle or anything.
Basically, it would mean that Nintendo said, you know what, the thing that everybody loved, the Nintendo D-pad, is not what we're going to do. We're going to switch to the thing that you don't like as much on other controllers.
Okay.
Why would
Right.
you do that?
Yeah.
Well, that's their biggest, like, most important patent. That they branded their this year's games with that D-pad. That their new red and white advertising campaign has that D-pad on it.
Yeah.
And I believe some of the other companies.
Now, we know 2 of those rumors are confirmed already. One of those is Sega.
2 of those publishers.
Right, 2 of those publishers are going to make confirmed games. Because Sega, we know, is making Sonic 2017, and Square Enix, we know, is making Dragon Quest X and Dragon Quest XI. Those games are confirmed. So those 2 publishers, at least, we know are going to support the platform.
And does that surprise you? I mean, this is the kind of rumor where I'm just like, oh, come on. Yes, right? Nintendo will make a Mario game for NX. What?
Yeah.
Get out, right? Like, I always get a little irritated at those rumors because, like, nobody will ever prove that it was wrong because it's always going to happen, right? Like, and if it is wrong, you can justify it by saying, like, well, they were trying to make a game in this time period and it didn't work. Sega, of course, will make games for NX.
But there has been a long period of time. We've been going through this drought right now of Nintendo software. You know, Nintendo's first and even second-party publishers have largely gone, or pardon me,
Except
developers.
for the ones mentioned
Yeah.
in the rumor.
Have
and that's
largely
why it's
gone
such a crappy
quiet.
rumor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I would love it if the rumor was, guess what, 2K or Square Enix or Capcom.
Release on that day, does that mean they're coming before NX or on the same day as NX?
It's a very plausible date because that's a Saturday in Europe and Nintendo loves to release products on the
Yeah, it would be a
weekend,
Friday.
right? Like, it's just another thing that points at March. I mean, I think it's interesting. But Sam, there's been a slew of other reports that were kind of piggybacking on older rumors, over the last couple of weeks as well, right? Like, I think there were thoughts on resolution, right? That the
Yes,
controller,
Yeah.
the pad would actually be a 720p device.
That's right.
Which I think is very credible.
And that it
Well,
can
we've heard-
stream in 60 frames per second at 4K.
Actually,
So
720p
that
is
is
not what...
that is less believable.
720p is not what I've read. 720. I've actually read 900p.
That was an older
900p,
rumor.
60
Yeah,
frames
okay.
per second output.
I've seen that one, and then resolution, and then a 4K 60 FPS streaming option built in. And again, those come from those surveys that I got confused about with the share button.
You're
earlier.
talking about a piggyback.
You're talking about a different one.
And it's
yeah.
all, yeah, and that's all plausible. The 720p, it is very highly likely. I mean, knowing Nintendo and the fact that they want to have a mass market audience and want to sell this at a decent price, right? Like, if you look at the new iPhones, they're what? Like, iPhone 7 has a 1920 times 1080, so 1080p resolution, and you obviously had Retina device. That's very expensive display technology. Whereas, like, the gamepad, do you guys know what resolution it was? It was 480p. The gamepad was 480p. It still looked for Wii U. It still looked really good because, of course, it's at like a 6-inch screen. So when it's small like that, it looks good. And so if the NX follows that same kind of setup, let's say it's 7 inches big, like the display, with a 900 or even a 720p, it'll look really nice.
Yeah, it's going to look great.
That doesn't mean, though, that the internal hardware, which is going to be in the gamepad itself this time, it's not going to be a separate console like with the Wii U.
Yeah.
So you got to take it with you, right? That still means it could do movie streaming at 4K. There's nothing that prevents that. But you got to ask the question, is that really what Nintendo is all about? And like everything I've heard about this device is that Nintendo is going, and this is what one developer I spoke to called it a reboot. The NX is a reboot for Nintendo. And that, to me, says, cards over discs. Right? It means taking the system with you and not having to decide this weird, like you're tethered to your living room thing, but also going back to the glory days. And the glory days for Nintendo mean NES, Super NES, and Wii. And the Wii did not win by doing 4K streaming or even HD streaming. It was the most used device for Netflix, and it was standard definition. So I don't think it's all that crazy to think that 4K will get nowhere near this device.
It's entirely possible. I do think there's one interesting nuance. Some of the rumors that seem to be panning out, we're now fairly sure this thing is a removable or detachable device that can be taken with you.
Yep.
Some of those early patent drawings, and patent drawings are a dangerous source of information, but some of those early patent drawings
they're actually
show
patent applications, so they haven't been granted. Which is a funny part of that.
That's exactly, and even then they're only proof of concept. They're just ideas. Yeah. But
and it's
some
not
of those
that expensive to put them out and get something patented. Like a company like Nintendo can afford to do a whole bunch.
But some of those showed a separate controller, and then they showed a base station that also had its own processing unit, which means that they could offload some of the online stuff to that and do some strange things through that too. If there is, a CPU in there that's designed to handle something like streaming or elements of the multiplayer,
like a smart dock,
exactly,
or like the PlayStation VR, right? The PlayStation VR has additional processing.
So it doesn't have to be on your head mainly, but it's also additional processing.
But that's exactly right. Like the dock could have, as the Tony Hawk skateboard put it, technology in it, right?
Just full of technology.
Full of technology.
That's
So
it.
we've talked about all of these now, and I'll just go down the list real quick. These are the partially confirmed. I read about it in IGN. Like, these are legit rumors now. That's a funny thing to say, but they are. We've gotten separate sources to confirm these. So one of those is the patent applications drawings. Nintendo did put those in. Like, those are real things that exist. They might not have anything to do with NX, but those are real. Portable/home, the whole dichotomy between those two coming together.
One device.
That's something that we.
And Nintendo, by the way, make no mistake about it. When they announced this thing, they're like, "This is not a replacement for the 3DS or the Wii U. This will be like." They're gonna do that whole spiel just like they did with the DS and the Game Boy.
It's the third
and I hope
pillar.
you're enjoying your Game Boys right now.
So
if they screw up that way, they can backtrack.
We also have detachable controller. There's just
Correct.
that there is a detachable controller. Might go on both sides of it. We don't have a lot of details on it.
It does not mean, though, that the detachable controllers are your main way of controlling the
But
games.
that is part of our.
It means when you're on the go. So think about the concept of
can serve as those
a
controllers.
travel controller, right? Like you have these cheaply made devices. And again, cheaply because they use apparently IR to communicate with the main device, and that only works when it's attached. Like you don't want to have IR in your living room, like a water bottle standing in front of your TV. You can't control the game. That's not going to be the tech used, right? You need something more expensive, like Bluetooth or RF signals like that are used by other consoles and the Wii U. And so I think cheap detachable controllers give them this wonderful playing field that they had with the Wii. Remember Wii Play had a Wii remote packed in?
Yeah.
You got crossbow training, had the silly attachment, all
Yep.
this kind of stuff Nintendo loves. They can manufacture that stuff really cheap, sell it for a lot of money, and it works well. And so I think they love the concept of being able to attach stuff to this thing to make it do different
Well,
functions.
don't I? Am I remember correctly that even early like sketches of the GameCube controller were modular? That there were ideas that they were going to have switchable buttons
They've
and
talked about
interfaces for different
switchable
things.
buttons for a long time.
this
Probably
is-
have those
yeah.
patents by now.
Yeah, and Nintendo loves to go back to old ideas. That is their thing,
So,
man.
and then I have one final thing. Confirmed games. We have Zelda Breath of the Wild, Just Dance 2017, Sonic 2017, which we suspect to be...
We suspect it's a Generations game, but we don't know.
Generations
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then...
Guess what? When you say Just Dance, by the way, guess what that means? A way to
Ubisoft is
measure...
making
No,
games
a
for it.
way to measure what you're doing. The Just Dance was a huge success on the Wii and not a huge
Motion
success on the
control,
Wii U.
sort of
And Ubisoft tells you it's because the Wii U did not have a remote with motion controls built in. And so it means some sort of hardware, right? That can
Or
actually
detachable
measure what you're doing.
controllers can be
Or a
moved around.
detachable controller, look at that.
Yeah,
guys,
look at
paying
that.
attention. Yeah.
And then Dragon Quest X,
Yep.
which was actually a Wii game that we never got.
Yeah, Dragon Quest was a Wii U game that we've never had.
And then Dragon Quest 11.
Right, which is a brand new title,
Yes. All right.
which will also release on DS and PS4.
Nice.
pretty
Speaking
good.
of games that possibly could be at launch, we're going to now talk about the greatest and worst Nintendo launch lineups. The reason for that is twofold. One is that NX is having a launch lineup soon. We're going to start hearing about that hopefully in the next couple months. But also, 20 years ago, this week, I'm sure Per Schneider was covering the launch lineup for Nintendo 64.
That's right.
Because it was starting to hit in
It was so much work reviewing all those games.
Yeah, you must have been really busy covering that launch lineup.
Can't
So
tell you.
let's actually start with that one. There were two.
There were two
Is that
games.
right?
Two games.
Two games.
There were
In
two
America.
whole games, yeah.
Yeah,
One
hey,
of
the
them
Japanese
was
got-
really good.
Oh,
though.
come on. They were both good. I
I
still
thought
really
one of
like
them was
Pilot
good, but
Wings.
one of
One of
them
them is one of the
masterpiece.
greatest games of all time.
You're talking about that Japan exclusive shogi game, right?
Oh, there was that. Shogi
Yeah,
game.
that's the
Shogi
one. Yep, no.
64.
Nintendo
There you go.
64 was kind of rushed out. I mean, to counter the negativity of the Virtual Boy. Just bounce on your thing there. But yeah, Mario 64 and Pilot Wing 64. Weak launch lineup. But what my question is, what came out right after that?
The first games, I think there was Wave Race was the closest one. That one was really
November.
hard to find. Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
I
there
did write
was
that down.
wasn't Blast Core also
So,
pretty close?
I
think
forgot
so.
I took notes on this. So Wave
Yeah.
Race 64.
Blast Core was a
Yeah.
rare game, right?
Blast Core.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't play that.
Blast Core and Mario Kart came out around the same time, but they both came out the next year. Actually, it was like February. Yeah. So the thing comes out in winter, and you actually have to wait till February to get Blast Core and Mario Kart.
On
64.
November 1st, you got Wave Race 64,
Yeah.
Shadows of the Empire,
Mortal Kombat too?
and Mortal Kombat Trilogy, and
Yeah.
Cruising.
It's Cruising USA. Yeah.
Cruise and that was
Which was a big game
And
at the
Cruising
time.
was supposed to be a launch title. I mean, that was one of the first titles revealed for Project Reality. Right?
Yeah.
Like that was the Williams / Midway Arcade collaboration where they're saying like, look at Killer Instinct, no Microsoft franchise, and Cruising USA, right? And like saying this is gonna be possible in your home soon. That was the big pitch. So it's kind of funny that game never launched with the platform.
Yeah, it didn't come out with it, and I mean, yet you had this game that is just sublime, incredible. The console was designed to play Mario 64,
Yeah.
and then you get things like Cruisin' or Mortal Kombat Trilogy. You're like,
Trilogy
you
was
know,
not good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really loathe Trilogy, but Wave Race is one of
Yeah.
my favorite games of all time for the N64. It is a little bit technically challenged because they were trying to do things that still developers can't figure out how to do right. The water physics,
Yeah.
and that was great.
Sam, so the N64 came out in September, just as I was starting college at the University of Kansas.
Yep.
I didn't get the console until my birthday in January,
Oh.
and then I spent all of my second semester just in my dorm room playing Mario 64.
What about Kart? Did you play that at all at that
I
point?
didn't. I never had Mario Kart 64.
Yeah,
What?
I missed.
I played
Mario
at
Kart
friends'
64.
friends' places, but I never owned it.
So every day at IGN would end with us playing Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Like, and it would honestly eat into the magazine guys were in the same building, right?
Yeah.
Next Generation Magazine, Ultra Game Players, and it would totally eat into their time all day long. They couldn't stop playing.
So you're doing that in February, and it runs to August. Now, in August, did you guys all switch to GoldenEye?
Yes.
Okay, I was wondering.
Yeah.
If that,
Well,
that
that
was
was just a year into the N64 life.
yeah, GoldenEye was less than a year into the
So
N64
if
life.
you were playing that all spring,
I mean,
And you...
also that's what led me to what would become IGN. Trying to find all the stars led me to N64.com.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you
Oh yeah,
write that
we
guide?
wrote that guide. It was
was a tough slog.
separate article pages, and I think
Yeah.
it was like tiny little 160 times 120 images with a little red Mario hat logo in the
Aw.
Yeah, that was our logo, was a Mario hat.
So,
cute.
Yeah, I don't think that was legal.
No, but you didn't know.
did it feel at that time like there was that kind of launch drought after the launch? Like, oh, there's all this new stuff. The Christmas came, and then like you had to wait a long time? Because with that February drop of games, it seems like that was pretty cool. But then you had to wait till August.
It was a really bad drought, and like
It was?
it
Okay.
obviously, yeah, and
Felt that way?
it led to, you know, there was that famous article in Next Generation magazine, something's wrong with Nintendo, right? Like the Nintendo couldn't figure out how to fill the gaps. The N64, before it launched, a lot of third parties were upset over the use of cartridges, all said, okay, we'll take a wait-and-see attitude. Then when it finally took off, more jumped on board, but it just took so long to develop for the system because it wasn't like the PlayStation. It
Yeah.
came with a bag of limitations like fill rate, you know, that the PlayStation was much more forgiving textures and so forth.
Oh, the texture mapping was awful.
But it also provided these like very steady polygons, right?
Yeah.
Without twitching, like you could do all these things, but it all came at a cost. And then you had to figure out how to do music again, which a lot of developers were used to. PlayStation now, you know, you just stream it off the disc. You didn't have to worry about the processor.
The
And so
N64
it took-
didn't really even have a sound chip.
No,
I mean, you
it's
had
a-
to run it through the main
Exactly.
processing architecture. So that was really
It
weird.
took a while. It took a while, and we were very aware of that drought. And so it was all spent covering about what could be and what will be someday. And
Did
we're
you
all
cover any
pining
Virtual
for
Boy
these,
games?
pining for these. No.
Okay.
You-
Which way do you want to go? We got to get through some of these.
Oh,
so do you
sorry.
want to go back in time or forward in time? After
Oh,
this?
we can
Just
go.
start with the NES.
Yeah,
All right,
go
All
back.
right,
so let's
just go straight
back.
there.
NES launch lineup, really funny because what does everybody think? You know, is the most important early NES game? It's Super Mario Brothers. Not at launch.
Packed
This
in.
was
Yeah,
not
yeah.
at launch.
It was not.
It wasn't packed in
As far as we
originally.
can tell,
Yeah.
it was not actually a launch
The
title.
original pack-in
Yeah.
was Gyromite.
Oh,
So-
that's right.
So you get a series called Black Box games. They all look like this. They all have a little pull tab on the back, and they're hung up in stores. You got. I'm going to go through some of them. I think these are the best ones.
Yeah.
Duck Hunt,
Duck Hunt's good.
Excite Bike,
Yep.
Yep.
Gyromite was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And that's about it for good games.
What about Kung Fu?
Wrecking Crew, I think, was great.
Wrecking Crew?
That was that one.
Kung, Kung Fu when you
And I
then
think Kung Fu is also
yeah,
a lot of fun.
yeah,
Never
Kung Fu's
played it.
fun.
That's a good
You ever
point.
play Kung Fu?
Kung Fu was that early.
Yeah, yeah. It's a 5-stage game with 5 unique bosses. At that
And-
time, that was like whoa.
And what's really interesting is you walk to the left in that game.
yeah,
Yeah.
you walk to, and then the next floor you walk to the right because your stairs ended and you went
Yeah.
up and you're going back through
And
the
if
building.
you want to play a lot of these games, the best way to do it, NES Remix.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Because some of these are really annoying. Like Clue Clue Land, it doesn't have a great control scheme. Pinball is just really boring. Soccer, but you can play all those with these funny little achievements in NES Remix. Go check that out. You'll get used to the NES launch lineup.
I love that you brought up Wrecking Crew. That game.
I
that's
love
a
Wrecking Crew
fun
because
game.
that was when you were able to build your own buildings and then destroy them.
Design your own stages. Yeah, that was really really cool. And then of
Like
course,
Lode Runner. It was very Lode Runner like.
and kind of like we said about the N64, you know, a little later on, you get Blast Corps, you get Mario Kart. Even Super Mario Brothers is the game that comes along and just after
Is this
launch.
true?
After.
When I was looking up these launch lineups, the NES was released in October of '85 with this first batch of games. Is it really true? There was not another single game released until June of 1986.
Okay,
we
that's
got all the Donkey
controversial
Kongs.
because of Mario's unknown release date. But
Yeah.
it's something like that.
There was almost a year in between those game drops. It's
Frank
insane.
Cifaldi has made it the goal of his life to document the release date of Super Mario Brothers, and it keeps getting closer. He keeps finding better
But
and
is
better
that
evidence.
drought is
It's
accurate,
insane.
though?
We
Yeah.
know like what Tutankhamun ate for
Yeah.
lunch on like the Saturday the 14th, 50
Yeah.
BC, but well, no, he's
Well,
older
the
than
toy
that.
industry
But, like,
was
we
different.
don't know when this game came out.
Two things. One, it's very difficult to go look up papers, especially old business papers that have largely been shredded from toy companies and toy stores in the 80s that don't exist anymore, chains that have shut down. We just don't have the documentation. Second, apparently they weren't all that great at keeping notes anyway, and that those two things kind of combined for that. We know so much about the Japanese launches of everything because it was meticulous record keeping, but here in the States, those things were not preserved.
And it's important to note, like, people didn't play the NES for a year. Like, it did not
It was
take off
launched
till the
in
next
it was launched in
Christmas
small. It was like only New York and L.A. Small
Yeah.
markets.
And that
It didn't go wide.
And the FAO Schwartz
until, like,
market.
the
season.
following
Build and
year.
build and build. The next Christmas, there was
Yeah.
a lot of Nintendo hubbub.
But
But
weren't there, like in the U.S., weren't there
involved.
Name one black.
in
Well, I
Super
guess
Mario
it's
Brothers.
the fire wands.
The
I guess
Podobo
it's
and the
Black
fire.
Magic.
Yeah, that's Black
This
Magic.
also says it's another non-stop adventure from the Super Mario Brothers. I don't know what the other one
Well,
before this
they
they
were
were
was.
just
Mario
Mario
Brothers.
Brothers.
The Mario Brothers.
Yeah,
like
but
where they
that's like,
fight against each other.
Yeah, but also like that's not much of an adventure. They just like they're in one screen.
They're cleaning the sewers.
But was this released after another like this edition came out after another Super Mario Brothers had
course
already
not.
came out? No, right?
As far as we know, that's the original
It's got a
packaging for the
30-day warranty
States.
on it.
Yeah.
It's
Another non-stop adventure from
Yeah.
the Super Mario
Another
Brothers.
non-stop
I think it's
adventure.
probably just
Because of Mario
some
Brothers.
copy editor wanted to write Mario Brothers and like, no, the game Super Mario Brothers. Tell them they're super,
Yeah.
otherwise it'll make them sound less cool.
But
That's probably
Wrecking
true.
Crew was out, right?
Black Magic though.
Oh, Black
That has
Magic.
This is 5.
Mm-hmm.
The next, SNES, another 5 games. F-Zero, Gradius 3, Pilot Wings, SimCity, Super Mario World.
All 5 of those games are
third
good.
parties.
That's actually a
Pilot
really-
Wings, right?
No,
you said
Gradius
third
is
parties?
Gradius is Konami.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Gradius is Konami.
But that's a really strong lineup.
Yep.
All those games are good.
Well, and then SimCity. What am I saying?
yeah,
And
yeah,
Pilot
which is
Wings.
But SimCity had Nintendo stuff.
right. It's got Bowser in it.
That's why it's confusing
Didn't
to me.
Nintendo publish that game? That
Yeah,
version
they
of it?
must
Yeah.
have.
And Dr. Will Wright.
'Cause it has Bowser in it, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right.
I love that version. And then like only a little while after you get Final Fantasy IV and ActRaiser like back to back.
Oh, those came
I think
out
that's
early.
yeah, those
Final Fantasy IV was
those
that
came
early?
out. They came out in November. Yeah, they came like they
So
came
by
very
Christmas,
quickly.
You had that lineup.
Yeah,
For
it
my
was-
money, that's the strongest Nintendo console launch lineup.
It's the strongest Nintendo console.
Well,
Period. It's, I mean, the amount of hits on that machine.
Sam, I'm being disruptive, but I do. Well, I should wait for the end. But Tetris and this, which is better? Which is the better launch
Yeah.
game?
I mean, that's the thing. I
This.
might take all of Mario 64 as a launch game over some of these others because it was so big. I mean,
Yeah,
like
but-
it could last you till June.
Yeah.
Find one somewhere.
Wario, like you
Yes.
said.
All right, so Game Boy Color, that's a small launch. I'm not even going to go over that. It's Tetris DX. And
That's
But,
it.
but Game and Watch Gallery too.
Yeah, who cares?
Okay, but only really old guys with King Ropes
Yeah.
hats were totally excited about that one, right?
Huh.
And I had Game and Watch in the past.
Yeah.
I'm an old guy. I don't have the hat.
But,
All right,
Pocket
we gotta
Bomberman,
move
Pocket
through these.
Bomberman.
Sam's blowing the whistle.
We got to go through these. But okay, so NES had a lot of games at launch. 19. Every launch we've talked about so far, 5 games. Now GBA, huge launch. We had Castlevania Circle of the Moon.
Yeah.
It's about 15 games. Circle of the
Remember
Moon,
when we got 2D Castlevania games?
People love
Yeah.
Choo Choo Rocket. I've never played that
Oh,
game.
that's
That
a
was good.
great version of Choo Choo Rocket.
Dodgeball Advance, Super Mario Advance, which is actually Super Mario World, so
right.
reliving that, and then a bunch of other games.
That version of
Tony
Namco-
Hawk was great on
Tony Hawk,
GBA
yeah,
too.
people like that.
Namco
Yeah.
Museum, when the GBA came out, was a revelation because those were great versions
that's right.
compared to
Yeah,
what
yeah.
you'd had before. You're just like, wow, I can take these with me, and they were well suited for portable. And Konami's Crazy Racers is a remarkably good kart racer.
That is the Goemon cart, basically, right? Like
Yeah.
it has characters from all the Konami franchises, from like Metal Gear and Goemon, all mixed up together, parodias. That was actually a really competent game.
Yeah, it's a great game.
completely
It's a lot of
forgotten,
fun.
isn't it?
I really like that game
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah.
And then in September you get Advance Wars, and then everyone's happy.
Then that's it. That's all we needed.
No drought there. GameCube, I remember this as being a really weak launch.
What?
Well, but it had Luigi's Mansion, Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2. Those are the two probably biggest games for that launch. What do you remember, Perry?
What about
What's
Monkey
better?
Ball?
Yeah, Super Monkey Ball.
Monkey
I'm
Ball
not a
was
Monkey Ball
really good.
This
amazing.
game.
And this is the first time a video game looked like the movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
Like
it
you
looked
do
amazing.
like the way just the shadowing and the way the ships look, and it was that was so eye opening to see this game.
Featuring
it was
the voice
also
of Dennis Lawson, the original Wedge and
that's right.
There
yeah,
you
Wedge.
go, wow.
But Wave Race Blue Storm, that was
Yeah, you
launched.
guys
Yep.
love
And
Wave
I'm a
Race.
big
I remember
Wave
that.
Race Blue Storm fan, especially once you unlock the later levels where it gets all stormy and crazy.
Also Super
That's an
Monkey.
underrated game. Crazy Taxi, not bad.
Yeah, Crazy Taxi's on there. Super Monkey Ball's there, which is a really wonderful game. But I'm not kidding. I cried the first time I played this game. Like,
this
I'm
game was
not
awesome.
kidding. I actually teared up when I first played Rogue Squadron. I was like,
Well, also because the music, this
Exactly.
was not a popular time for Star Wars. Like,
Yeah.
Star Wars was not like Episode 1 had come out and be like, oh, what the hell? And does this have an Naboo ship in it?
no, that comes later. That comes later. This one I don't think has a Naboo ship in it.
Yeah, it was kind of in between movies.
I think
so
it's in the third one that you get the Naboo ship, and then Starfighter.
there was a hidden one in there.
Is there a hidden one? Okay, I
it
couldn't
was
remember.
unlockable.
Maybe it was the Jedi Fighter is what it was.
Yeah.
No, one of them has the yellow.
It's probably the
yellow-
Naboo ship. If it's going to
yeah,
be in one,
Starship.
it'll be this one. Okay.
Yeah.
The GameCube is the only Nintendo console I bought on launch day. I picked up the black box. I got this game and Tony Hawk 3. and that kept me happy through Christmas until I got Pikmin.
Oh, that's a
Did you
good
carry it
day.
home with a handle?
Yeah, I took.
Did you like
open the box?
build
and
in
then-
like yay?
The GameCube was so groovy.
So then Pikmin came out on December 3rd along with Smash Brothers.
That's a good day.
See, that's how you follow up a launch. And yet,
it's a good launch follow.
the GameCube I would not consider to be the greatest success for Nintendo, right? Like
No.
a troubled console.
but not a monumental failure like
No,
like
but
a couple of the others.
They made a lot of money on it.
But they had great software, and like honestly, like there were so many good 4-player games too. And like even third parties, like if you think of Time Splitters, like there were all these little gems you could play on this machine.
It
They
was,
did-
it was Nintendo's last attempt to compete directly with
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sony and Microsoft.
That was their solution to like a mainstream, like a
Yeah.
full-fledged console.
And from what I've read, they found a way to manufacture the thing at a technologically superior level
Yep.
and make a profit on the hardware when they sold it.
Yeah.
So they made even though they didn't sell as many of them, they made a ton on that thing.
Yeah.
Even before software.
But I would say they were also misreading the market. And at that time, Sony said, you know what, DVDs are a big deal. People
Yeah.
want to watch DVDs.
Yeah.
And like all those little factors added up,
Yep.
right? Where the GameCube had its own like
Those little discs.
proprietary
Yeah.
GD disc format, and it's like they misread the market on some of those things. But the machine was actually pretty powerful. I mean,
yeah.
some of the best made
I think we
GameCube
all had
games
fun
looked
that
amazing.
holiday too. It was
Yeah.
a really fun launch. Like
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
games
it
are
was
just
really
like
fun.
every game I played, I was like, I wanted to play that game a lot.
Yeah.
It did
That was a good
480p
launch.
too. Remember at a time
Yeah.
when others weren't talking about it, you could custom order, of course, the damn cable, but like you could.
Could you get the cable that early?
Yeah.
Did you guys have them? Okay. By
Yeah,
by
you had
the
to.
fall?
Like I think we first got them from Japan because you
'Cause
couldn't
I only
find
got
them
'em
anywhere.
years later 'cause my TV couldn't
It was a real
get
bummer.
All right, so that's actually all we have time for our launch lineups. There's a few more systems. I'm sorry, but we have to move on to a very special segment. We're gonna play 20 questions. So, on Game Scoop every week, Damon runs a game.
Yep.
It's really fun, and there's also scoops. You guys should all check out this show because it's really fun when we play this game.
Yeah, and I should also point out on the GameScoop YouTube channel, we break out just the 20 questions
20
segment. So
questions.
there's a whole playlist
Yeah.
for just the 20 questions games. And it works like 20 questions. You have 20 yes or no questions to guess the object, person, place, or thing.
And we always get the Nintendo ones.
The caveat is that
Oh,
video
man, we
game
are
20
so-
questions,
we
it's
are so
always,
dead now
it's
to
always
that.
a video
He's
game.
gonna pick something obscure. I know.
I don't pick them, so
Oh.
the viewers and listeners email me their suggestions.
So are we getting a
So
PlayStation
how
or an
can
Xbox
people-
game
This
here?
one
How do
comes
people
from...
just submit them to you just first of all?
They email gamescoop@ign.com.
Okay.
Just like Nick
All right.
did. Nick emailed us this week's suggestion. So,
Okay.
20 questions may begin now.
But hold on, we are in the Nintendo voice chat here, right? Can we from the get-go say that it is in the Nintendo realm, or is that a
you
question
can
we have
ask
You
to
could spend a
wait?
question on that.
Oh my lord,
Go for it.
Damon
You're welcome to spin
Hatfield,
that.
man.
Spin the question, Fair.
Huh?